What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of 3 players every team should keep and or sell. And today we are going to go with Bournemouth. Now, Bournemouth, of course, relegated from the Premier League. A bit harshly, maybe, if you want to consider that. If Aston Villa didn't get their freak, VAR decision, they would have stayed up. And they thought about, putting in a lawsuit or whatever it may have been, a complaint. In the end, it probably wouldn't have changed anything. But as I said, a little bit harsh. They came on a little bit too late, but, those things happen and they go down. New manager after Eddie Howe is left by, I believe it was mutual consent. So this is going to be a very big year for Bournemouth. This is one of those teams with the stadium capacity, with, the money. They normally don't bring enough, a ton of money in via game days and stuff like that, players or fans coming in. It's a small stadium. They don't bring in a ton of money like some other clubs do. So this is one of those times where this is probably your best chance to go straight back up. You don't want to get caught down here and turn into the next Blackpool. And hopefully they got the manager decision right with Tyndall as well. So there's a lot going on here at Bournemouth, but we're going to talk about the players. So 3 players they should keep, 3 players they should sell, and we are going to start with 3 players they should keep. Danjuma being number 1. Now, I am 100% never a fan of moving a player on after one bad year. Especially in the Premier League, it's a tough league. It's a different league for a lot of foreigners. It's very difficult. Danjuma here didn't have the greatest of years, but he has shown plenty of glimpses of, turning that into a little bit of quality. Maybe, a year of football in the championship, consistent, playing against teams that, he can get on the ball a little bit more. Maybe that helps him out a little bit, but it's definitely not a player I move on after 1 year. I would definitely keep him around, and hopefully they do. Number 2, Solanke. Now, this one is another player who could benefit probably from a year of football in the championship, just playing week in and week out. Scoring his first couple of Premier League goals really, really late in the year. I believe he got 4 in the last 3 games there, I believe, or 3 in the last 4 games, whatever it may have been. But he started to come along a little bit, and they seem to like him enough. He plays a little bit. And even if Callum Wilson, leaves and they bring in another striker, this is still someone who could, 1, definitely get some confidence going forward in the championship, and number 2, at minimum, be pretty decent backup for a championship side. They should definitely keep him around, especially with, Josh King might be leaving. Callum Wilson's probably definitely leaving. It's going to be tough. They're going to have a whole new striker core almost, really. Having someone who's, fluent with the rest of the club is probably a really good idea to keep around. And number 3, Philip Billing. Now, this one is my most important one. Of anyone on the team, if you could pick and choose, realistically pick and choose, Billing would be the one I would keep. Now, he's a tough midfielder, combative, likes to win the ball. He's Premier League quality. He's definitely a lot better. I mean, he's gone down 2 straight years. He's a lot better than that. He's a Premier League player, as I've said. Having as many Premier League players on the team, obviously, as possible is a huge bonus, especially, and you can really kind of get away with it coming straight down. Sometimes, after 2 or 3 years in the championship, Premier League players are all gone, and you're going to have to redo this. Having a Premier League player like Billing, someone in midfield who could command the game, someone who can, break up what I assume are going to be counterattacks. So, Bournemouth are going to have the ability, in theory, to go at teams. You're going to need a kind of strong pivot midfielder to prevent those teams who sit back and try and hit you on the break. Billing is the perfect candidate for that, and he is definitely one of the players I would keep around. Now, as for sales, number 1, Begovic. This one seems pretty easy to me. He's been out on loan a couple times, older, not going to really start at any point. Just get those wages off the books and just move on that way. He's probably on pretty decent sized wages coming in, especially when they first went up. stayed around a little bit, you probably get a couple bonuses in there. It's probably best to just get those wages off, move on. You've got your goalkeepers. You don't need him around, wasting your own money, really, especially at a time like this. Number 2, Callum Wilson. Now, this one seems destined. I would move him on. He's probably a little bit too good. He definitely is too good to be playing in the championship. There are going to be plenty of teams who come calling. He probably wants to leave, and by the looks of it, he seems like he's pretty willing to move on, go back to the Premier League. He's a Premier League striker. It's tough to kind of keep players like that around. Everybody in the Premier League is always looking for a proven goal scorer. And when one goes down, everybody comes along. Villa have come in. I believe Newcastle have come in. A couple of other teams have come in. It's priceless to have a proven goal scorer when you're in the bottom half of the table, and Callum Wilson is that, and it's going to be difficult for anybody, let alone Bournemouth at the moment, to keep him. And number 3, Brooks. Now, this one is a tough one for me to put on the list because I think he's a really good player. He is a really good player. That's another one who's probably a Premier League player. But Bournemouth love him, and you can see why, obviously. But he's had one of those years that's been really strange. He's been hurt quite a bit. Bournemouth haven't been playing pretty attacking football, but he's one of the best players on the team. And as he's been linked to a couple of pretty big clubs. United were linked with him a little bit. Liverpool. He's probably not that good just yet. He could turn into be a decent backup player for teams like that. But Brooks, I think this one's actually a pretty good deal for everybody. This isn't like Callum Wilson where you sell him on and you're forced to sell him on. You deal with it. This one, I think, if you were to get 20 to anywhere between 20 and 30 million for Brooks, I think that's good business for everybody. One, when you're coming straight back up, everybody's got to be ready in and around the team all the time. He's just, last year, nagging injuries all year long. You need to be fit for a long championship season. Number 2, this is pretty good money, especially when you go straight down. You want to get as much money as you can. Anywhere between 20, 25, 30 million is pretty good money for David Brooks for what he brings. It's tough. And number 3, he's just a really good player. He's probably too good for the championship. So it's one of those things where I think it's a lot more beneficial for both the club and the player to move him on. The club get a good size of money. They don't have a player sitting on the wage books. He's probably on a decent amount of wages. Probably don't have a player sitting on the books who's, his nagging injuries. Is that a recurring thing? We'll see. You don't want 46 games and have one of your best players sit out 25 of them. Can you really afford that in the championship? It's ultra competitive in the championship. You can't really do it. I just think this is good for the player, good for the team. That would be one of my ones to move on. Callum Wilson's a different story. He's just too good, and teams are going to come around, and he's going to go. David Brooks, be difficult to keep him around, but moving him on is probably good business for everybody involved, guys. But that is going to be it. Let me know what you guys think in the description down below. But that is it for now. So peace.